42 years ago, a goofy comedy about a police academy that would take anybody became one of the biggest franchises of the decade.
And the action has to be, the stunts have to be not vicious at all, but they have to be funny.
But the moment the camera stopped, these 15 lives went places you'd never guess. One was already a football legend.
Here at the academy.
He actually was a totally misplaced person.
One vanished from Hollywood for 15 years. A few are gone now, and one goodbye will stick with you.
Dreamy character. A rather out to lunch.
Stay till the end, because one star's off-camera story is more heartbreaking than any fan ever truly knew. 1. Steve Guttenberg, Cadet Carey Mahoney.
Disney, please make a sequel. There's nothing like playing a villain.
Back in 1984, almost overnight, everybody in America knew exactly who Steve Guttenberg was. He was Mahoney, the wise guy, the ringleader, the charming troublemaker who got sentenced to the academy instead of jail.
Let me go out to California. I was 17 years old. They gave me 2 weeks to become a movie star.
He was the glue that held the whole cast together, and the camera absolutely loved him. Here's something most fans never knew. Before he made it, Guttenberg was so broke and so hungry for a break that he snuck onto the Paramount lot, found an empty office, slapped his own name on the door, and just started showing up to work there.
See the thighs? Come on, I haven't got all day. The thighs.
What in the hell are you doing?
Meeting women, sir.
For months, nobody questioned it. That's the kind of nerve that turns a kid from Brooklyn into a movie star. And for a stretch in the 80s, he was unstoppable. Cocoon, Short Circuit, 3 Men and a Baby.
Hey, it ain't cool if your chrome don't shine.
He was headlining hit after hit, sometimes all at the same time. One of the only guys in Hollywood carrying multiple franchises at once. But here's where the story takes a turn. Just when it looked like he'd be on top forever, the phone started ringing a little less. The 90s were quieter. The blockbusters slowed down. Steve never disappeared though. You've seen him on The Goldbergs, on Ballers, still working, still grinning.
Do you speak any English? Nej, svenska. Men titta,
He's 67 today, and for years now he's been trying to talk Warner Brothers into one more police academy. Still chasing it, still Mahoney at heart.
Sinatra is the Lord, all right?
But while Steve became the face of the franchise, the young woman standing next to him in half his scenes was about to become one of the most famous women on television, and almost nobody saw it coming. 2. Kim Cattrall, Cadet Karen Thompson.
And then I was sort of making movies in New York and Toronto, so it didn't really work out.
You have a great life.
She doesn't have a huge part in this movie. She's the pretty, sharp cadet who catches Mahoney's eye. Blink and you might think she's just the love interest.
What else were you called upon to do that maybe just take? You had no warning.
Well, I didn't get to explode. Somebody else did.
You would be wrong about where this one was headed. Now here's something that surprises a lot of people. Kim Cattrall isn't American. She was born in Liverpool, England, yeah, the same town as the Beatles, and grew up partly in Canada. That polished, all-American look in Police Academy, completely put on.
They were green, but not green enough.
Well, that's gotta be some kind of a humble pie to have to eat there, huh?
For years, she was the woman from a bunch of 80s comedies. Porky's, Mannequin, Big Trouble in Little China.
How do you relax on a set that's chaos already?
Like this.
Solid work, recognizable face. And then 1998 happened, and a show called Sex and the City came along, and Kim Cattrall became Samantha Jones, and turned into one of the most talked about women on TV for the better part of 2 decades. That little role in Police Academy, it became a piece of trivia most of her later fans never even knew about.
You married very young then?
Well, I've been married twice, so this was my
She's 69 now, still acting, still iconic, and she even popped back up as Samantha in the Sex and the City revival. Not bad for the quiet cadet in the back of the class.
They told me that, that you'd get it out of me, so...
But while Kim became a superstar with her words, the next cast member became unforgettable, without ever really speaking normally at all. 3. Michael Winslow, Cadet Larvell Jones. Let's just be honest with each other. Half the reason kids drag their parents to police academy was this guy, Michael Winslow, the human sound machine. Gunfire, motorcycles, dogs, helicopters, video games.
Well, each sound for me is a unit of material value. So people come up to me and do noises. I used to be they would ask me to do them, but now people come to me with sound.
All of it coming out of one man's mouth, with no equipment, no tricks, nothing. If you grew up in the 80s, you can probably still hear him doing it right now in your head. And here's the thing that makes it unbelievable. It's all real. There's no electronics, no looping, no studio magic. He can recreate an entire Jimi Hendrix guitar solo, feedback and all, using only his voice.
Some folks like the car, and I like the motorcycle.
Mel Brooks was so blown away, he wrote him into Spaceballs. But here's what's wild. While a lot of the cast slowed down, Michael never put the act away. In 2021, he walked out onto the America's Got Talent stage, decades after Police Academy.
Oh no, another Vivazula! Turn it off!
And did the exact thing that made him famous, and a whole new generation lost their minds. He's 67 now and still touring, still making those impossible sounds in front of live crowds. The man literally turned his voice into a 40-year career. But no one on this cast a bigger shadow, literally, than the gentle giant who played Hightower, and his story has a much heavier ending. 4. Bubba Smith, Cadet Moses Hightower.
She would have moved me over the middle to make them block me, and it never happened.
Before he was ever Moses Hightower, the soft-spoken florist who could lift a squad car off the ground, Bubba Smith was already a legend, a real one.
Like at Police Academy 1 versus Police Academy 5. What do you think?
I like 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This man was the #1 overall pick in the 1967 NFL Draft. He won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Colts. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. In the 70s, he was so famous, he was doing those Miller Lite commercials everybody quoted. Football fans knew exactly who he was long before Hollywood ever called. And here's something that tells you everything about the kind of man he was. Those beer commercials made him a fortune.
You know, they see you and they see your size. You play sport? Not anymore. I'm too old.
And he walked away from them. He quit. He said he didn't like seeing kids at his college games chanting the beer slogan back at him, and he didn't want to be the reason a young person started drinking. He gave up the money on principle. On August 3rd, 2011, Bubba Smith was found dead at his home in Los Angeles.
Baltimore Colts, the power of the NFL, taking out the upstart New York Jets from the AFL. No way you could lose. You end up losing 16-7. What happened?
I personally think the game was fixed.
The game was fixed.
He was 66 years old. For millions of us, he was never just an actor. He was the big, calm, gentle giant who could do anything. And the news hit a lot harder than people expected for a guy from a slapstick comedy. But while we lost Hightower, another fan favorite from this cast was just getting started, and she nearly stole the whole movie the second she walked on screen. 5. Leslie Easterbrook, Sergeant Debbie Callahan.
What's your middle name?
You know, I'm going to start over too, but keep this.
Okay.
But what do I love really truly is generosity. One of those things that just makes my heart go, it makes it beat.
The moment Sergeant Callahan walked into frame, you knew exactly who was in charge. Leslie Easterbrook took a role that could have been a one-note joke and turned her into one of the most memorable women in comedy history.
Or firearm. I need a volunteer.
Tough, fearless, completely commanding, and the cadets were terrified of her, which was the whole point. Now here's something you'd never guess from that drill sergeant act. Leslie Easterbrook is a trained singer, a serious one. Before Police Academy, she was on Laverne and Shirley, and over the years, she sung the national anthem in front of huge crowds.
Well, there's nothing that's exciting. You know, I've done stuff, but it isn't like Devil's Reject, so.
That booming, take no prisoners voice Callahan used to scare recruits, that's an opera-trained instrument. And unlike a lot of comedy actors who get stuck in one lane, she kept working and even reinvented herself.
Female Wayne Newton with a mustache, 45 years old. And I nearly shot my agents, and they said, well, they might go a different way.
Years later, horror director Rob Zombie cast her in his Halloween remake, showing a whole different side. She's in her mid-70s now and still very much around. Callahan, it turns out, was just one chapter.
Do you have any weird habits?
Not that I can think of. You'd have to ask my husband.
But Callahan's biggest rival on that base became something else entirely. The character fans absolutely loved to hate. 6. G.W. Bailey, Lieutenant Thaddeus Harris.
The whole police academy opus was started in San Francisco. Paul Meslansky got the idea there.
Oh, you remember this guy, Lieutenant Harris. The smug, scheming weasel of an officer who spent the entire movie trying to wash out every cadet he could. G.W. Bailey made him so perfectly punchable.
Your new hat, sir.
You told no one?
Not a soul.
That fans loved to hate him, which is honestly the hardest thing for an actor to pull off. But here's the part that'll throw you. The guy who played that cold-hearted villain has spent a huge chunk of his real life running a charity for kids with cancer.
And as the buses unloaded, a very kind of zigzag zebra line formed, and I noticed that it was the most diverse group of...
For decades, quietly, off to the side, no cameras. The man who tormented the cadets on screen turned out to be one of the most generous people in the whole cast. And his career didn't slow down one bit. A whole new generation knows him not as Harris, but as the grumpy, lovable detective Provenza on The Closer and Major Crimes, a role he played for years and years. He's 81 today, still sharp, still working when he wants to. Funny how the guy you were supposed to hate ended up being everybody's favorite old-timer.
This guy's great. I thought he was wonderful. I mean, I loved him from the beginning, you know, such a great martinet and the perfect foil, you know, everybody.
Yet the next cast member may have had the sweetest presence of anyone in the movie, with a voice you have absolutely not forgotten. 7. Marion Ramsey, Cadet Laverne Hooks.
Whoa, because he had been taping me on the other voice.
The Hooks voice, that one, you know.
That tiny, sweet, barely there little voice became one of the biggest running gags in the whole franchise. Cadet Hooks, so soft-spoken she could hardly be heard, until that one glorious moment when she finally lets it rip. If you saw this movie, you are smiling right now just thinking about it. But here's the truth almost nobody knew. That itty-bitty voice was a total act. In real life, Marion Ramsey was a powerhouse. She was a Broadway singer, a belter, with real stage credits and a set of pipes that could fill a theater. The whole timid little mouse thing was pure, brilliant character work from a woman who could blow the roof off a room when she wanted to.
Please, sit down, please. Zip your lips, slouch your butts to the seat, listen hard! That's a lot better.
We lost Marion Ramsey in January of 2021. She was 73. And the tributes that poured in told you everything. Co-stars and fans alike remembered her as one of the warmest, kindest people any of them had ever worked with. The gentle one, on screen and off. Her passing hit fans hard. But another member of this cast left behind an even longer legacy and lived nearly a century to do it. 8. George Gaines, Commandant Eric Lassard.
Welcome to the new police force.
He developed as a rather out-to-lunch, dreamy character.
To millions of us, he wasn't an actor playing a part. He was Commandant Lassard. The sweet, dotty, fish-loving old man running the whole academy and not quite understanding any of it. He anchored all 7 films. He was the heart of the franchise.
Here at the Academy.
He actually was a totally misplaced person.
And here's something that'll stop you. Before Hollywood, George Gaines was a trained opera singer, a real one, performing on serious stages. He was born all the way back in 1917 in Finland and lived an entire life of music and theater before a generation of kids ever knew him as the goofy commandant.
There was an actor, a French actor, who was partly my inspiration. He was called Jacques Tati.
The same year you were renting Police Academy, he was also charming everybody as Henry on Punky Brewster. George Gaines passed away in February of 2016, surrounded by family of natural causes. He was 98 years old. 98. A near century of a life. And at the end of all of it, he was still, to so many of us,
I can't quit. Of course you can. Many, many wonderful people have quit. Many, many.
the kindly old man who just wanted everyone to do their best. But while Lassard was the gentle soul of the Academy, one cadet was famous for the exact opposite. And his real-life story is one of the saddest in this whole video. 9. David Graff. Cadet Eugene Tackleberry, the trigger-happy gun nut who treated every traffic stop like the storming of Normandy. David Graff made him one of the funniest characters in the entire franchise. The wide-eyed maniac who just loved firepower a little too much. And here's the irony everybody who knew him points to. Off-screen, David Graff was one of the gentlest, warmest, most easygoing guys on the set. The total opposite of the part.
In the end, you see that those flaws actually...
He had a real family man's life. Married since 1983, 2 twin boys he adored. And that's what makes this one so hard. On April 7th, 2001, David Graff was at a family gathering in Phoenix when he suffered a sudden, massive heart attack. He was gone almost instantly. He was only 50 years old. 50. He had a heart condition nobody fully saw coming, the kind that takes young, healthy-looking people far too soon. He left behind those 2 boys and a whole cast that loved him. For a guy who spent his career making us laugh, his goodbye still hurts. Yet another cadet took the thing everybody made fun of him for and turned it into the whole point. 10. Donovan Scott. Cadet Leslie Barbara.
And I actually, when I went into the audition, they called me in, I swung the door open and then walked through it and did it.
Leslie Barbara started this movie as the Academy's biggest underdog. The sweet, soft, picked-on guy that the bullies wouldn't leave alone.
Guys, I don't think I'm supposed to get the photos wet.
Until he finally finds his backbone and stands up for himself. For a lot of us watching back then, that little arc actually meant something. And here's a fun one most people don't connect. Donovan Scott was a working character actor with one credit that'll make you do a double take.
And the action has to be, the stunts have to be not vicious at all, but they have to be funny.
Just a few years before Police Academy, he played Castor Oil, Popeye's pal, right alongside Robin Williams in the 1980 Popeye movie. Same guy. He never became a household name, and that's okay. He became something arguably better, the reliable character actor who works forever.
Had it kind of cushy at home and always had, people take care of him. And finds out that nobody's going to take care of him in the Police Academy.
He even spent time in the early 90s directing films over in Russia and Ukraine of all places. He's 79 now and still pops up doing comedy and improv out in Los Angeles. Still that same warm presence. But Barbara wasn't the only cadet looking for love in this movie. And the next guy's smooth-talking act hid the single most surprising real-life story in this entire cast. 11. Andrew Rubin, Cadet George Martin. Remember this guy? George Martin, the cadet with the phony accent who fancied himself a ladies' man? A funny little supporting part, the kind of role you remember the bit, but maybe not the name. Andrew Rubin. And this is the one I teased at the very top, because here's what almost no fan ever found out. At the height of a perfectly good acting career, Andrew Rubin stopped.
He ran that motorcycle up to really fast, and then we had a car pull in front of him.
He walked away from Hollywood for nearly 15 years, not because his career collapsed, because he chose to. He went and spent those years running humanitarian and nonprofit organizations, helping people completely out of the spotlight. No press releases, no comeback story. He just quietly went and did good for over a decade.
My reaction to what was going on. And that seemed to be the right procedure. It worked.
And most of the people who loved Police Academy never had the faintest idea. He eventually drifted back into acting in his later years. Andrew Rubin passed away in October of 2015 from lung cancer. He was 69. The smallest seeming guy in the cast turned out to have lived one of the biggest hearted lives of any of them. But the next actor's constant on-screen disasters nearly made him more memorable than Mahoney himself, and his story connects to one of the most famous sitcoms ever made. 12. Bruce Mahler. Cadet Douglas Fackler. Poor Doug Fackler. The man could not walk across a room without triggering a 10-car pileup. Bruce Mahler played the walking disaster of the Academy, the guy whose tiny mistakes somehow ended in citywide catastrophe, and he was an absolute scene stealer. Now here's the connection that'll surprise you. Before Police Academy, Bruce Mahler was a regular on an early 80s sketch show called Fridays, and his castmates included a young Michael Richards and a young writer named Larry David.
Police Academy. I sensed it could, as an institutional comedy, it might have a shot, but I never thought it'd do what it did. Never, never, never.
Yeah, that Larry David. Years before Seinfeld existed. And it gets better. Mahler later showed up on Seinfeld himself, playing the pompous rabbi that Elaine confides in. Small world. Oh, and one more for you. In between acting, the guy breeds champion border terriers, award-winning show dogs. You can't make it up.
And I walked out, and my manager grabbed me, and he pulled me aside, and he said, "I'm putting you into a TV series immediately. This is going to be the biggest bomb Hollywood has ever seen."
He's 75 now, still working, still got that production company of his going. Fackler, it turns out, landed on his feet just fine. But behind the scenes, the woman who played his on-screen wife had a real-life story that is hands down the most heartbreaking in this entire film. This is the one I asked you to stay for. 13. Deborah Lee Scott, Mrs. Fackler.
Tell me the number of children in the average American family.
2.
The color of parakeet.
Green.
A popular form of recreation.
Tennis.
You remember her as Mrs. Fackler, Doug's patient, put-upon wife. A small role in the grand scheme, but Deborah Lee Scott was a familiar face all through the 70s and 80s. If you watched Mary Hartman, or Welcome Back, Kotter, you knew her.
We were in Madrid, and there was this really long line, about a block and a half long.
She was everywhere for a while there. And then life took a turn that nobody could have written. In the late 90s, Deborah Lee fell in love and got engaged to a man named John Levy, a Port Authority police officer in New York. They were planning their wedding, and then came the morning of September 11th, 2001. John Levy was inside the World Trade Center, helping people get out when the towers came down. He never made it home. Deborah Lee was devastated in a way she never recovered from. The grief pulled her into a spiral, and her health began to fail. A few years later, in April of 2005, she lay down to take a nap at her sister's home in Florida, and she quietly passed away in her sleep. She was just 52 years old. A small part in a silly comedy, and behind it, one of the most quietly tragic love stories Hollywood never told. That's the one a lot of fans still don't know. Now you do. And speaking of the people in charge of all this chaos, two of the franchise's great authority figures are still ahead. 14. Ted Ross, Captain Reed. Captain Reed didn't have a flashy part. He was one of the no-nonsense brass keeping order. Easy to overlook. But Ted Ross walked onto that set having already done something almost nobody else in this entire cast could claim. He'd won a Tony Award. Long before Police Academy, Ted Ross originated the role of the Cowardly Lion in the Broadway smash The Wiz, and won Broadway's highest honor for it.
I'm almost 60 years old. I'm just standing in the middle of a restaurant going, Proctor!
Then he played the lion again in the 1978 movie version, the one with Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. This man was a genuine stage legend slumming it in a cop comedy, and he gave it everything anyway. That's a pro. Ted Ross suffered a stroke in the late 90s and moved back home to Dayton, Ohio. He passed away in 2002 at the age of 68. The cop with the small part, who, it turned out, had one of the most decorated resumes of anybody on that base. But our final cast member watched the entire franchise unfold from the very top of the chain of command, and he was the last of the old guard to leave us. 15. George R. Robertson, Chief/Commissioner Henry Hurst. Chief Hurst, later Commissioner Hurst, the man at the top, forever trying to keep order in a world of complete and utter chaos, forever one bad day away from losing his mind over Lassard's misfits. George R. Robertson played him as the straight man the entire franchise leaned on, and he stuck with it through 6 films. And here's the surprise to end on. This Canadian actor had one of the most quietly impressive resumes in the whole bunch. He turned up, often in small roles, in Rosemary's Baby, in Airport, in Norma Ray, in Oliver Stone's JFK. That's a handful of all-time classics and a few Best Picture nominees. He even played Vice President Dick Cheney in a major TV miniseries. The man had range you'd never guess from watching him bark at cadets. George R. Robertson passed away in January of 2023 in Toronto, surrounded by his family. He was 89 years old. The last of the franchise's great authority figures, the man who tried and gloriously failed to keep order, gone, but absolutely not forgotten. 42 years later, Police Academy is still one of the most beloved comedy franchises ever made. Some of these people became legends. Some of them left us far, far too soon. And some of them are still out there right now, well into their 70s, still making people laugh. But together, for one perfect, ridiculous, wonderful movie back in 1984, they gave us something that generations of us still quote,
"I look for the same in a woman."
Hey, this sucker's not loaded. Tack.
Tack?
still rewatch, and still love. So here's my question for you. Which one of these surprised you the most? Was it Bubba Smith walking away from a fortune? Andrew Rubin disappearing to help people for 15 years? Or Deborah Lee Scott's story, the one almost nobody knew? Drop it in the comments. I read them. And if you've got a soft spot for the movies we grew up with, do me a favor and subscribe. I've got a lot more of these coming. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you in the next one.